listening to Opening the Harp Chakra, the podcast, bringing you beautiful, healing, magical harp music and talking to the artists that create it. I'm your host, Jay Michaels. Thank you for joining us today. Today's guest is from Scotland. She has toured throughout Europe, the States, and more. A widely regarded harp player, one of the world's finest players of Scottish harp. BBC Radio 2 calls her a superb Highland harper. She also is a harp teacher. She has published 4 books of harp arrangement and compositions. Her most recent album is Sparks, recorded with acoustic guitarist Ron Jappy. We'll be featuring a few tracks from that CD as well during the podcast today. Joining us from Glasgow, Scotland, Rachel Hare. Hi, Rachel.
Good evening, Jay, or good afternoon, I should say to you guys. I think we're several hours ahead here in Scotland, but it's lovely to be joining you.
Thank you. It's lovely to have you. I've admired your work for quite some time, and I'm really happy to be able to talk to you about it.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's begin with the beginnings. So maybe how old were you and what inspired you to first start playing the harp?
Yeah, well, I thought I was 10 years old when I started playing harp, but my mother recently told me actually she thought I was 9 years old when I started. So I was born and brought up in a village in the northwest Highlands of Scotland, a place called Ullapool. And when I was at primary school, it was the school holidays, and there was a kind of Gaelic kind of festival summer camp type thing going on in the village, and my mum wanted me out of the house, so I was sent along to that, and I had to choose an instrument to go to the classes for. And well, I would love to say that I chose the harp because I just felt drawn for the harp at the time, but to be honest, at that time it was because my best friend Anna was in the class as well, and I wanted to be like Anna. So that was my first introduction to the harp, actually, to the Scottish harp, was when I was 9 years old at this fiche. But yeah, I remember getting on quite well at it, and I remember being at the concert of the tutors that evening and watching the tutors and just being mesmerized by their fingers dancing over the strings. I was right at the back of the hall, and I can still remember those hands just dancing over the strings. And yeah, I was hooked.
Such a great instrument, and for many people, it's not always their first instrument, but I think whoever plays the harp, it ends up in most cases being their favorite instrument, I think.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, I started off when I was younger, I got recorder lessons and piano lessons, but it was harp that really took over, if you know what I mean. And very much, I'm a harper. I'm a harper.
And you focus a lot on the Scottish music. Being Scottish, I suppose that has something to do with it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's mainly Scottish that I play. I mean, a bit of Irish as well. I now live in the city of Glasgow, and Glasgow has a big Irish community. Still really does. A lot of the traditional music that is played in Glasgow is Irish music. So I've been influenced by that, and my mother's Irish as well, which is quite a big influence on me there too. Right. So I kind of dance between the two. I take the Scottish stuff more seriously when performing and teaching, but I like to kind of get the Irish tunes out for the sessions and stuff. They're good fun.
So you have a lot of albums, but your most recent is called Sparks. And why Sparks? Does that name have significance to you?
Well, we took a while to kind of land at that name. We had the thesaurus out in the diary or the dictionary and everything, but then we kind of came across the word, I think it was fire or something like that. We're like, okay, so we're quite fiery as a duo, and then kind of started to think about how people often kind of say our playing is very bright. And then the word sparks came to it. So I guess that's our thinking behind it, is that it's kind of sparkly or kind of quite, it's not as you expect a harp and guitar to sound, put it that way. It's a little bit more brighter and fiery than you would think.
Well, actually, listening to your CD, I think that is an apt description of your playing.
Thank you.
So let's feature a track. This is a set of tunes starting with Redford Cottage. Could you introduce?
Yes, so this is a set of 3 tunes. The first one is called Redford Cottage, which is a pipe march. There's not a lot of old harp music exists in Scotland, traditional tunes. Unlike Ireland, we've sadly lost a lot of our kind of historical harp music. So we tend to borrow and steal tunes from other instruments. So we're starting off here with a pipe tune called Redford Cottage, a 6/8 march, and then we're going to go into a couple of tunes which were actually originally Gaelic songs, pieces of mouth music, which are ways of singing tunes in the Gaelic language. But of course, we're kind of going full circle and playing them. The first one is called Dansa con Dansa Alain, which means Dance Alan Dance. And the second one is a deep and meaningful title called Stillim Him Buntata Sim, which means I like potatoes and butter.
from the latest album, Sparks. That is Rachel Hare. And I neglected to mention before going into that piece, your musical partner, Ron Jappy, who also plays guitar on the CD. Can you tell us about your partnership, how that came into being, where you met? And
Yeah, so Ron, we have kind of battled. We cannot remember how we met. We both live in Glasgow, and Glasgow has a fantastic music scene. It's got its own kind of community with going to gigs and going to sessions. And he's from the Highlands, and he came down to study at university. And I honestly cannot remember where I remember him just always being around.
Mhm.
And then I was looking for a new guitarist or somebody to dep actually for a tour out in Europe, and I was like, oh, Ron's reliable, and he's a good egg. He's kind of he's a light guy, if you know what I mean. Everyone likes Ron Jappy,
Right.
and so I asked him if he would do it was a 3-week tour out in Europe. And he said yes. And we just got on like a house on fire. He's a great guitarist, very sympathetic to the style that I like, which is kind of very driven by Highland tunes and traditional tunes, historical tunes, and like the music of the bagpipes, which he's into. So we both have a kind of obsession with looking at old tunes, and we both love to travel as well. So he's a perfect person to tour with.
So this next piece I want to feature, I really like this. It has a really nice mood feel to it. You know, it's the title is excellent too. I mean, what a great combination of words. Looking at a rainbow through a dirty window.
This is one of my most favorite tunes in the world,
Yeah.
and it's written by a very close friend of ours, of mine and my fiance's. It's written by a lad called Callum Stewart, he plays uilleann pipes, Irish pipes, whistles, and the wooden flute, and he's actually from not too far from where Ron's from. They kind of grew up a little bit together. But he wrote it a number of years ago, and I kind of picked it up. I think it was about 13 years ago I picked it up and started teaching it. And I've taught it all throughout the world, and it's become a bit of a hit in the harp. But it's just got the most beautiful thinking behind the title. So the title, Looking at a Rainbow Through a Dirty Window. The dirty window is said to represent the kind of not so great things that are maybe happening in your life or indeed in the world. But if you look through the dirty window, you'll see a rainbow, that there's always something to hope for. So it's a good one for what we're going through just now. It's really a tune about hope.
That is Looking at a Rainbow Through a Dirty Window. Rachel Hare, Ron Jappy from the album Sparks. Rachel, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your work teaching. You've got this wonderful harp workshop program called Harp at Home, which is perfect for so many people being home now. And I'm assuming you were doing that before so many people were home.
I wasn't actually.
Oh,
it's
no.
something that so this was a kind of lockdown special, if you know what I mean.
Right, yeah.
To kind of keep me from being bored. It's something that I've always wanted to do, was a kind of YouTube series on learning tunes, teaching my favorite tunes. But I just haven't had the time to do it. And I always wanted to do it well. I don't like doing things half-heartedly, if you know what I mean.
I know what you
So
mean.
I like to plan things well and be able to do things. And I kind of, last April, I'm involved in the Edinburgh International Harp Festival, and we were the first major event in Scotland to get cancelled as a result of the pandemic. And we ended up moving the festival online very fast. And it was really myself that did it all, because I knew the technology and I knew how to do things. And I kind of got used to using a new video editing software. And I got quite good at it, enough to be able to do things, good enough for YouTube and things like that. And I was like, I want to put these skills to use. And people have been asking me if I was going to do, workshops online, because a lot of people were. And I kind of delayed it a bit because I wanted them to be done well. So I decided to launch the first series, just a series of 8 workshops. And they were a real hit. And the idea was that it was just to kind of keep us going for a wee while. But then, obviously, things have continued to kind of be the way they are. So I'm on my 3rd series now. So I'm just over halfway in my 3rd series. And it's been a total pleasure. It's been good because it's meant that I've still been able to kind of connect with harp players throughout the world. And I've made new friends, and it's given me a challenge every week to kind of, work on new material. And it's good because they're in series as well. I'm not getting too bored. By the time I kind of finished it, it's ready to stop. And then a few months later, I'll be ready to start a new one. So I've been so chuffed with how well it's been received.
It's excellent. So if people go to rachelhare.com, that will lead them to...
That will lead them to, or indeed, actually, if you type in harpathome.com, that just forwards to the page on my website. And they're on YouTube, but you can access them via my website. And there's a small charge for the sheet music. You can actually watch the workshop for free, but a small charge for the sheet music. And I kind of do different things with them. I'll have folk having interviews or performances. Right now, I've been teaching the Harp at Home suite, which is a special suite of tunes that I've written especially for the series. So, and then I finish each workshop with a thing I call the blether section, which is when you blether on, I just talk on to the camera. So that's one of my favourite things. I just kind of chat on.
The blather section.
The blether section. That's a good Scots word for you there, blether. If you're a blether, if you blether on, you chat on.
I'd suggest if you ever decide to do a podcast, that's your name right there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, good. Let's do another tune, actually a pair of tunes from the CD.
Yeah.
These are the Derby Jigs, right? The Road to Derby and Sunset Squatters. Can you tell us about these tunes?
So these 2 tunes are about a place called the Isle of Man. And the Isle of Man is a place that's very dear to my heart. My fiancé is from the island. It's an island in the middle of the Irish Sea between Scotland and Ireland. And it's a sizable island. It's got a population of 80,000. It's its own country. And I normally go there once a month to teach harp. I have 26 young students that I teach over there. Obviously, we're online just now, but I've become very involved in the music scene over there, partly through my fiancé and through my teaching. So the first tune was written by a friend of my fiancé's, actually, called the Road to Derby. And Derby is in the north of the island. It features the Derby Hilton, which is the prison on the island. They call it the Derby Hilton.
Wow.
So I'm not really sure what the full story is behind that, if it's relating to the Derby Hilton. And the second tune is to do with believe it or not, with the population of wild wallabies on the Isle of Man. They have a sizable population of wild wallabies after two wallabies from the local wildlife park escaped and started to procreate, as you will. And
Yeah.
if you go at sunset to this area in the north of the island, actually, not too far from Derby, these wallabies will just start hopping about on the roads in front of you. It's amazing. You can go on a wallaby hunt in the Isle of Man.
Wow. And they hop about and do their thing right there.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
Wow.
you're just kind of like, okay, this is very strange. Just an island very like Scotland, and they've got wallabies.
So the Derby Jigs. Rachel Hare, Ron Jappy, the Derby Jigs from their CD Sparks. Rachel, our guest today on the podcast. You've been touring, playing your harp many places around the world. Do you have a favorite story, a favorite experience from that?
I was kind of, I was having a wee think there, just as you were playing the track there, but kind of like what we got with touring. I mean, my kind of favourite things are the kind of unexpected connections that you meet, and whether it's the people or the places. And last year we were very lucky. Literally just before the kind of things turned, we managed to get 5 weeks out in New Zealand touring. We did a kind of 4-week tour, and then I stayed on for a wee while to teach some harp. And we were in the north of the island, and folk had been telling us, "Oh, you've got to go to this museum in the north. It's about Scottish settlers." And we're like, "All right, okay, we'll head over there." And we had an hour, so we went to this place called Waipu, and it turned out to be a museum about a man and the settlers that arrived in the area that happened to be from Ullapool, my home village.
Oh.
And so we were in this museum with documents and photos of my home village in New Zealand. And the leader of the people who came over had been a teacher in my primary school. And I was watching videos, and there was people I knew in the videos. It was very strange.
Yeah, right.
I mean, this happened in the 19th century, but they kind of had a kind of shared relationship with the museum in my home village. And so I just love those kind of unexpected moments, whether it's places you visit that you find connections to, or people, indeed, who know folk that you know, especially in the harp world. The harp world is small. You'll always know somebody that knows someone, and that's just lovely.
That's true, yes.
Yeah.
Musically speaking, what or who do you think is your greatest source of inspiration?
Goodness, I'm not sure if there's a certain person, I guess. For me, just really the trad music scene in Scotland is a big influence. Mm-hmm. The kind of progression. The Scottish music scene is very forward thinking in the traditional music, but also incredibly respectful of what has gone before. And there's just so many good musicians here. So many colleagues of mine in Glasgow especially are just real, inspirations to me. A lot of folk like myself have kind of come from rural areas and settled in the city because it's a good place to base for touring, because you can generally get to anywhere in Scotland quite easily from here. And yeah, I just have so much respect for these people who kind of push the traditional music right to the edge, but can also do it, have respect and can still play it in the traditional style. They're really kind of masters of their craft. So I guess, I'm not one person, but just a kind of collective scene, I think. Kind of folk at, my generation, and even the young ones younger than us, the talent that's coming out is something else.
It is.
So, yeah, very lucky to live here in Glasgow, I have to say.
I'd like to do one more group of tunes from the CD, Sparks. Yeah. These are a set of polkas.
Yeah, so these are a set of polkas. I would love to tell you their names, but I cannot quite remember them. I literally wrote them on the album sleeve and instantly forgot them. But these are they're Irish ones. I think the last one finishes off with a tune called Art O'Keefe's. And I guess this is a kind of nod to my Irish heritage and just the tunes that, we play here in Glasgow. And I think I found these kind of trawling through old recordings and old books of Irish tunes. I love when we recorded our album, myself and Ron, he came round to the apartment here a few days in a row, and we just trawled through old recordings and looked through old collections of books, just finding nice tunes. Ron plays fiddle, you see, so he's got a good ear for a tune as well himself. So yeah, we like these three tunes. They're fun ones to play, actually. We quite often start our concerts with them.
From the CD Sparks, Rachel Hare, Ron Jappy with a set of polkas there. Rachel, plans for the next year, coming years, any big projects you're starting to formulate, work on?
Yeah, so it's a strange time just now. Obviously, we're kind of staying at home. Last year was supposed to be an epic year for us. We made it out to New Zealand, and we're forever grateful for that. We were also meant to be out several times to the US. I think I had 3 or 4 trips planned to be teaching and playing. I had my visa sorted and everything, and then everything kind of went a wee bit upside down. But we're hoping to get out to Australia or Japan in the coming years. We were meant to be there last year, so that's a kind of big thing. But I mean, right now, and just kind of working on projects that I know I'll be able to make happen in the next 6 months, because travel's not yet secure. I'm going to be releasing a new harp book, my 3rd volume of mostly Scottish harp. That should be available at the start of April. I'm also really excited about a new project. I'm going to be working with a Manx Gaelic singer, a dear friend of mine called Ruth Kagan, and we're about to launch a crowdfunder actually to fund the album. We got a little bit of funding from the Isle of Man Arts Council, so it's going to be Manx Gaelic song and harp. Really, I guess more of a kind of beautiful album, if you know what I mean. Like mine and Ron's, you wouldn't necessarily call our album beautiful. I guess it's sparky, like the kind of title. It's fine.
Well, it's sparky and beautiful in a beautiful way. Yes. Yeah.
But I guess with mine and Ruth's album, it's going to be a lot more kind of stripped back, and yeah, we're very excited about it. So we were just heard this week, actually, we got a little bit of good news that the crowdfunder is kind of working with the Arts Council here in Scotland, and we've been chosen as artists who will be match funded. So if you donate to our crowdfunder, they'll match fund your donation, which is amazing. So it means we should hopefully make double what gets pledged. So it's really nice to have the support of the Arts Council here in Scotland for that.
Absolutely. And that sounds like a project that I would really enjoy listening to. So maybe next year, come back on again and we can feature some of that music. That would be
that would be wonderful. I think you'd really love Ruth singing. So I can't wait to kind of get into it. We did a few gigs a couple of years ago, but you know, when you're kind of living life on the road and kind of all over the place, it's hard to dedicate time to a new thing. But now we have time, so yeah, we're excited to start it.
Well, we were going to put your website and your other contact information, Facebook, Instagram, all in the show notes here to the podcast, so people can find you, find the crowdfunding, find Harp at Home, find links to your music. And wow, this was so much fun, and it was great to listen to your music. It was great to talk to you about it. It was great to listen to your wonderful accent. It's all very good. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great, you know. I think even though that we're kind of all staying at home, the internet is doing amazing things for getting us all connected. And I really do feel very connected to the harp world right now, even though I'm not really leaving my apartment much.
Right. Yes. And doing this podcast, I've become very connected to the harp world too, which is really great.
Hey.
And thank you for being part of it.
No bother.
If you have questions, guest suggestions, email me at openingtheharpchakra@yahoo.com. We've also included links to PayPal and Venmo if you'd like to contribute to the production of this podcast. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends. Thank you so much for listening. In the coming weeks, we have more beautiful harp music from all around the world. I'm Jay Michaels. Thank you. Peace. Namaste.